Hello, welcome to Gallery Teachers Masterclass. I'm Susie, and with you today, I'm going to be talking about drilling techniques in the EFL classroom. Let's go. So here's the agenda for what's going to happen in the session today. I've tried to be really practical, so I've picked out little snippets of videos from real life teaching to highlight some of the techniques and the comments that I want to make about drilling. So we're going to talk about why it's important, when we can do it, and then you'll be able to have a look as we go through the videos at some practical suggestions and some drilling techniques in the classroom. And then, of course, we'll have plenty of time for your Q&A at the end. So we thought we'd start with something just a little bit unusual and find out what your reactions are to drilling. So we're going to run a quick poll. So you have to choose between yes or no and answer my question, I'm a bit scared of drilling. Which is true for you? Yes or no? Press now. Can't wait to find out about those results. So we might need to have a think about what drilling actually is. I think a lot of people get a bit confused. So it's when we try to model different sounds or shapes with our mouth or phrases so that the students can hear them and then try to repeat and copy. Some languages don't have very mobile sounds or phonetics. So we need to show them that to speak English correctly, your mouth shape needs to move actually quite a lot. So we want to do some drilling practice in order for the students to literally wrap their mouth and their teeth and their tongue around the different words and phrases we want them to use, because meaning comes in intonation as well. So we want them to be able to stretch the mouth for vowels, close the mouth for the ooh sound, think about the difference between long sounds and short sounds. And we really want to build their confidence when they do this. So we want to try to make sure there's a laser focus on either sounds or words or phrases, and give the students lots and lots of pronunciation practice to make sure that they can build their confidence before using the sounds, the words, the phrases all together in language for the freer practice. So while we give them controlled oral practice or drilling, this is our opportunity as the teacher to make sure the students are trying out this new language, but they're fully supported. And as teachers, we're looking at dealing with immediate error correction. Hopefully, what you'll get is your students then saying something better, if not perfectly, and you might have to settle for better. They're not always going to be perfect, no matter how hard we and they try. You'll see a little bit of that later, I'll promise you. So now we're going to talk about why is drilling important, and it's for two reasons really. We need to make sure that the students are building their confidence using our target language, whether it's sounds or words or phrases. So in order to do that, we have to give them the opportunity to repeat several times. We only want them to say the specific thing that we're practicing, but we need to make sure that they're repeating the same chunk or the same phrase at least 4, 5, 6, or 7 times so that we can listen and check they're getting it right. It's easy to spot mistakes even when you're doing whole class drilling, because often it sounds like an orchestra and you might be able to hear 1 or 2 voices getting the sounds wrong or not quite filling in all of the words. So definitely recommend doing lots and lots of whole class drilling, choral drilling, and then using a laser focus on individuals just to pick up and check that you're getting rid of all the errors. Once they've got the accuracy and the confidence built up in the words or the phrases, that's going to really support them moving into the fluency. We want them to make mistakes in the classroom because they can be corrected either by themselves or by each other or by the teacher. So basically, we're encouraging them to use the classroom as a lab before they take the language off into the real world and use it on real people. And so we want to make sure that before the freer practice, as much as we can, we're going to give them another little bit of drilling practice, and you'll see an example of that in one of the videos coming up shortly. We also want to make sure that the learners are able to personalize new language. We don't just want them talking about theoretical ideas in the sky. We want to make sure that what they're talking about is authentic and personal for them. And then if at the end of the speaking activity, the teacher has managed time effectively, we can also do a little bit more on delayed error correction or provide additional pronunciation support. So you can see that fluency provides this firm foundation for drilling, that we work on pronunciation with the smaller chunks. We need to make sure that they're intelligible So often students will have an accent depending on where in the world they come from. So in order for them to be understood by everybody, not just the teacher and the classmates in the EFL classroom, we really need to make sure that they're intelligible. So this is where focusing on individual tricky sounds or things like consonant clusters can come into play. So consonant clusters will be things like words that begin with STR. So 2 or 3, sometimes 4 consonants together, like string, street, etc. We want to make sure they've got appropriate intonation. This is especially true for asking questions and also dealing with functional language. So if we're teaching, for example, suggestions, getting the student to say in an appropriate voice, "Do you fancy coming to the pub?" And then if we're modeling responses, "Yeah, I do," it's not really going to be appropriate pronunciation. So we have to make sure that we're showing them things like rising intonation, "Yeah, I do," compared to "No, I'm busy," which has the falling intonation. So the meaning is contained in not just the words there, but how we say the words. So focusing in on those things and making sure the students have got natural rhythm and ordinary stress is part and parcel of building up then their content of speech. So this is where they go from individual words or sounds into phrases like "do you fancy" or "do you want to," and then moving into some surround language as well. So maybe if we're back to functions, "Sorry, I can't because I'm meeting my granny," or "Sorry, I can't because I've got an exam to take," or something like that. So not just teaching isolated words, but making sure that the words are taught in context with any surround language that's necessary. And that way, once they've built on the blocks of the pronunciation and the content, they've got a firm foundation towards fluency. So where in a lesson is it a good idea to drill? So if you're teaching a reading lesson, for example, or a listening lesson, you won't really have to drill very much unless the students need to hear the sound of the word on the tape. But if you're teaching a vocabulary lesson, where the vocabulary itself is the target language, then after you've done the meaning and the form in the language focus stage, it's a good time to work on the pronunciation. Once the students have been given some controlled practice, so that could be a gap fill activity, or it could be an error correction task, or making sentences from prompts. When we're doing the feedback or the answers to a controlled practice task, that's another opportunity to get the students to do some drilling as they give you answers. You might be able to encourage some cross-class communication to get them to focus on pronouncing the target language correctly again. And if you can, just before they go off and do a freer practice activity, maybe they're going to need a little bit more work on, for example, asking questions. Possibly in your language focus, you focus mostly on the statements, positive and negative. So before they go off and to do the freer practice task, maybe just a little reminder or some support and help on the questions. Okay, so these are 3 good stages in lessons when it's a great idea to drill. So we're going to listen now to a series of snippets from a video of a present perfect lesson taught by Flora, one of my recent Santa graduates. So she has been dealing with the Star Wars films as the context, and she is in the language clarification stage of the lesson, sometimes called the language focus stage of the lesson, where we look at those 3 features of language: meaning, form, and pronunciation. You can see from the screenshot that she's got a timeline, so she's dealt with form. She's asked her concept checking questions. They've looked at the subject plus have and has plus past participle. So now she wants them to focus on pronunciation. So I'd really like you to listen to how she focuses on the weak sounds and how she gets them to focus also on contractions. Here we go.
So listen to me say this sentence. He's been to Star Wars conferences all over the world. Can I hear you say, he's been to Star Wars conferences? You try.
He's been to Star Wars conference all over the world.
He's been to Star Wars conferences.
He's been to Star
He's
Wars.
been to Star Wars conferences.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so it's he has, but it becomes one sound, so it's he's. He's.
He's.
He's.
He's.
Yeah, nice. And this sound is quite short. He's been. So am I saying been, smiling, or been? He's been to Star Wars conferences.
Been.
Say again.
He's been.
He's
He's been to Star
Yeah,
Wars.
nice. Well done, guys.
Okay. So in that last section, Flora was trying to show the students about the contraction. So instead of saying he has, it was squashed together to be he's. And she mentioned smile. So trying to get them to focus on the fact that it's not he's been to Star Wars conferences, but he's been to. So contractions and the short forms, the weak forms that she's looking at there. So in this second little snippet, she is getting them ready for the freer practice stage, because it's great they've done statements, positive and negative. They also are going to need to know how to ask questions for the freer practice stage. So listen to how Flora helps them with the questions.
Have you ever seen Star Wars? Listen to me say it. Have you ever seen Star Wars? What's weak? Can you hear the weak sound? Have you ever seen Star Wars? Can you hear where the...
Have you ever seen Star Wars?
Where's the stress? Have you ever seen Star Wars?
Ever seen?
Yeah, it's on the beginning of ever, and it's seen. But here, this bit is quite weak. Have you ever seen Star Wars? Let me hear you say it. Have you ever seen Star Wars?
Have you ever seen Star Wars?
Have you ever seen Star Wars?
Nice. Okay. Sonia, have you ever seen Star Wars? Tell me yes.
Yes, I have.
Perfect. Can you ask Wellington?
Wellington, have you ever seen Star Wars?
Yes, I have seen Star Wars.
I have seen Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, yes. Okay, sorry.
We don't need to use ever when we respond. We just use it in the question. Nice. Okay, Wellington, can you ask Ilya?
Yes, Ilya, have you ever seen Star Wars?
No, I have not.
Oh, well done, Ilya. Or what else can you say?
Yes, I have.
Or you can say, no, I have.
Not.
Or-
Haven't.
No, I have.
No, I have never.
I've never,
Never.
yes. Okay.
I have.
Ilya, ask Ricardo. Ilya, ask Ricardo, please.
Ricardo, have you ever seen Star Wars?
Yes, I have.
Okay, Ricardo, ask Olya.
Oh yeah. Have you ever seen Star Wars?
I have never seen Star Wars.
Well done. Olya, can you ask Natya?
Nadia, have you ever seen Star Wars?
No, I haven't.
Okay, perfect. Well done, guys.
Okay, so what you heard there was Flora doing controlled oral practice. So she was choosing which student spoke to which student, and she was also choosing what their answers were. Tell me yes, tell me no. And if you notice, there was a mixture of practice for the students of the question form, and then also the short answers. Yes, I have, yes, I haven't, or I've never seen. So she's really wanting to support them going into the freer practice stage by covering the positive, the negative, and the question forms, and really supporting and helping with pronunciation, which is why she immediately error corrects. So we're now sort of moving a little closer to the freer practice stage. So this next little snippet is trying to prepare the students to move away from the Star Wars context and start talking about more personalized things. Okay, so travel is often something that people enjoy. So she's going to be thinking about using some travel examples. So have a listen and think to yourself, does this come easy to the students? Are they finding moving away from the context easy or difficult?
Have you ever been to Japan? Tell me no.
I haven't been in Japan.
Okay, ask Wellington.
Valentine, have you been in Japan?
I haven't. I have never.
Perfect. I have never been to Japan because we're going to a country.
Yes. Okay.
I've never been to Japan. Wellington, can you ask whoever you like? Choose someone.
Oh, Ilya. Ilya, have you ever been undressed?
Where?
So
I'm sorry.
become everybody. Okay. Ilya.
Yes, can you repeat it, please? I don't catch it.
Okay. Have you ever been I forgot the rest.
To Japan.
The Japan.
No, I have not. Okay.
Sonia, have you ever been to Japan?
No, I have never been to Japan.
Natia, have you ever been to Japan? Tell me yes.
No, yes, I have.
Oh, very nice. I'm very jealous. Okay. All right. Well done.
Okay, so did you notice how there was lots of nervous laughter, lots of hesitation, lots of stuttering? So even though Flora has just really well prepared them using the Star Wars context, once as a teacher you shift away from what was familiar and you now open it up into something a bit more freer, a bit unfamiliar, you can see that the errors start creeping back in, and not necessarily with target language. They are managing the have you ever mostly, but instead the preposition problem of in Japan instead of to Japan. So again, we really want to work on immediate error correction in order for the students to get as much as they can right in the actual freer practice task where we leave them alone. So let's listen to the actual freer practice part of the lesson. So this was the slideshow that they were working on. The idea being that Flora has given them some base forms of the verb, and of course in the question they need to try to think about the question and the participle and then the person that they're speaking to. So listen to the students. Flora's not in the room at the moment. Are they confident and are they accurate with the target language?
We're going to finish talking to each other. I want you to ask your group about their past life experiences using the present perfect. So I want to know about your group. What have they done in their past? We don't know when. You don't have to ask them when, but I just want you to find out some general things that they have done in their past until now. So you start your sentence, have you ever? And then you can choose. You can choose a verb, but you need.
Have you ever saw a rare animal?
Yes, I have in the zoo.
Sonia, have you ever met a famous person?
No, I have never met a famous person. Shall I ask like somebody like Natia? Have you ever traveled to another country?
No, I haven't. No, I have never.
Okay.
Wellington, have you ever played a game or sport?
Play a game or sport? Yes, I have ever played.
Okay, so can you see how when the students are left alone, they can manage the interaction because they've had the cross-classroom practice, asking Wellington, asking Sonia, asking Natty in this case, but they still sound very hesitant in their questions and they're still making mistakes in their short and long answers with I have ever, and so on. So this is why the drilling stage is so important, because even though Flora has done all that prep work before the students get left alone in the breakout room, you can still hear some serious issues with the target language when they are in the breakout room. So again, that's why it's important, if possible, that once you all come back to the main session, or if you're face-to-face, once you call the attention back to center, that if you can, you deal with a little bit delayed error correction just to reinforce accuracy of the target language again. Okay, so after Flora's lesson had finished, I was going to do some feedback on helping my trainees learn how to do the modelling of the drilling correctly. So the photo is all of us on graduation day, and Flora is just below me with the red bandana, looking very happy in the middle. So as you listen, I'd like you to have a look at those star bullet points about all the reminders and then maybe pop in the chat box the different things that you hear me go through as I give Flora a model of what else she could have done to support the learners during that language clarification stage. All right, so remember, we really want to make sure that when we're doing controlled oral practice, that accuracy is our focus. Okay, so once or twice is never enough, and we want to have a go at substitution. So switching out, for example, countries to make the students really comfortable with the target language. So you did a good job with getting the question from them. Okay, so have you ever met? Let's just practice that little bit. Have you ever met?
Have you ever met?
Good. Again, have you ever met?
Have
you ever met?
Have you ever met a famous person?
Have you ever met a famous person?
Good. Again.
Have you ever met a famous person?
Okay. Have you ever been to Japan? Listen. Have you ever been to Japan? You go.
Have you ever been to Japan?
Good. Have you ever been to Japan?
Have you ever been to
Japan?
Change Japan for Turkey.
Have you ever been to Turkey?
Again.
Have you ever been to Turkey?
New York.
Have you ever been to New York?
Okay. Mark, ask Flora.
Flora, have you ever been to New York?
No, I haven't been to New York.
Good.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Flora, ask Annalie.
Annalie, have you ever been to New York?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Annalie, change the place and ask Nima.
Nima, have you ever been to Hong Kong?
No, I haven't.
Perfect. Okay, Nima, change the place and ask Lucia.
Lucia, have you ever been to India?
No, I haven't not.
Okay, let's test your memory. When Nima was speaking, what was the country?
India.
India.
Okay, when Nima was speaking? You sure?
Hong Kong.
And what was her answer? Can you tell me in a sentence?
Aronima hasn't been to Hong Kong.
Okay, so let's not use Aronima. We can refer to her as...
She hasn't.
Perfect. Okay, so she...
Hasn't.
Okay, good. So she has not, will be she...
She hasn't been.
Okay, good. So she hasn't been to...
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Good, okay. What about Annalie? Where did Annalie go or not go? Can you remember?
New York.
New York.
Okay, so was it a yes or was it a no?
No.
Okay, so give me the sentence.
She
hasn't been to New York.
Good, okay. Let's swap out hasn't and what can we put in instead?
She's never been to New York.
Lovely. Again, Mark.
She's never been to New York.
Everyone.
She's never been to New York.
Okay, what about Mark's place? Can you remember?
New York too.
New York.
Okay, so give me the sentence.
He's never been to New York.
Yeah.
Good. Okay,
Never
again, Flora.
been to New York.
Flora again.
He's never been to New York.
Everyone?
He's never
been to New York.
Perfect. Great. Well done. Thank you very much. All right, so you can see there with my CELTA group, they were very well behaved students. But looking at that list, there's a list of lots of different things that we as teachers can take into the classroom in terms of managing the drilling so that the students get repetitive practice of the target structure, in this case, have you ever, but we're substituting out the noun, or it could be the activity, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Again, there's a mixture of controlled oral practice where I'm asking each student to choose somebody, and then we're going to go back and check the she and the he, because in this particular grammar structure, as you know, the have changes to has or hasn't. So this is a really great model to watch, to remind yourself of the different ways that we can do some drilling. So lots and lots of choral drilling and lots of individual drilling if you can. So drilling doesn't always have to be serious. It can also be a little bit silly. It's quite nice if you can make it a little bit silly, and then the students aren't going to feel quite so self-conscious. So this is a video we've taken from the BBC website. Have a look at all the different kinds of drilling that they recommend.
Hello and welcome to the Teachers Room, the show that's by teachers for teachers.
That's right.
I'm Sian. This episode's topic is
Drilling is repetitive oral practice of a particular target structure.
What does that mean?
Banana.
Ah, banana.
See? It focuses on accuracy and provides a model for students.
Exactly. Problem is, it can be a bit boring and repetitive, so let's look at some ways to liven up drilling.
So the basic drill is a choral drill. The teacher says something and the students repeat it.
Or you could do an individual drill, so the teacher says and one individual repeats.
BBC Learning English rocks.
BBC Learning English rocks.
BBC Learning English rocks.
BBC Learning English rocks. Why not mix things up by varying the voice? You can do
loud,
whisper,
high voice,
low voice,
or mumbling. Remember that drilling can sometimes feel a little bit silly, so a bit of laughter is good.
Yeah, stop people
Embrace
feeling
it.
embarrassed.
Exactly. BBC Learning English rocks.
BBC Learning English rocks.
BBC Learning English rocks.
BBC Learning English rocks.
Substitution drills are really good for practicing different types of vocabulary.
So the teacher supplies the original sentence and then suggests replacement words each time.
Sean is so cool.
Sean is so cool.
Dan.
Dan is so cool.
Tim.
Tim is so cool.
Jim.
Jim is so cool.
Transformation drills are really good for practicing grammar.
Exactly, you can change the tense, the first person, third person.
Affirmative, negative.
Yes.
I like Sean and Dan.
I like Sean and Dan.
Negative.
I don't like Sean and Dan.
Past tense.
I liked Sean and Dan.
Future tense.
I'm gonna like Sean and Dan forever.
Present continuous tense.
I'm like it.
Wrong.
You said it.
With longer sentences, try back chaining. It's really good for connected speech and it adds an interesting twist to drilling.
Exactly. So start at the end of the sentence and gradually work back.
Mario.
Mario.
Seen Mario.
Seen Mario.
Has ever seen Mario.
Has ever seen Mario.
No one has ever seen Mario.
No one has ever seen Mario.
You can also try chain drilling. This is where a teacher asks a question in a particular target structure to a student.
And then that student responds and asks a question to the next student.
And down the line and down the line and down the line. Have you ever been to France?
Yes, I have. Mario, have you ever been to America?
Yes, I have. Many times. You can also try split drilling. This is where you separate the sentence across a number of students and get them to say one word each.
Yeah, challenge them to say it with the perfect intonation, timing.
Or they have to start again from the beginning. We
love
Mario,
come on. Okay.
Start again. We
love
learning
English.
Nice.
How do you drill your class?
Send us a video and let us know. You
Exactly.
could get one of these awesome t-shirts. Where are they going?
bbclearningenglish.com.
That's bbclearningenglish.com. Right, let's
Let's
get out of
go.
here. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay, so what you saw there was lots of different types of drilling, some of which you've seen in Flora's lesson as well, that you may already be using with your learners. You probably are, which is fantastic, but there's a couple of new suggestions just in case you want to vary things up and change things around. So the choral, remember, is the whole class. The individual is just one person at a time. Substitution, we've seen examples of, and then chain drilling, so the students asking each other as they go along through the room. Whispering drilling, so you can do it really quietly, or mumbling drilling, so you can like try to make it really difficult to understand. You can do shouting drilling, and then you can split the class. So I sometimes do, because I work with adults, you know, like over 30s, under 30s, or you can do all the women, all the boys. So you can do split class activities like that. Back chaining was mentioned. I'm also going to show you an example of forward chaining. Showing that in a second conditional lesson that I taught, and then just changing up your tone of voice, being a high tone of voice or a low tone of voice. So if you as a teacher are not afraid to get a little bit silly, that can really kind of like, you know, help your students feel less embarrassed when they're really trying their best at having a go at some of these tricky structures. So as well as being able to focus on connected speech, we also want to make sure that students have got good sentence stress and good word stress. So marking that might be done in different ways. It could be done with boxes, it could be done with like full stops, it could be done with underlining. I like the spots and circles approach because it shows you how many syllables are in the word and then which syllable is stressed. So if you have a look at the top line of the noun decision, you can see it's got 3 syllables and the stress is here in the middle one. Okay, so showing that can sometimes really support your visual learners in the same way we do for contractions when we showed he has and it becomes he's, or he has not and it becomes he hasn't. So showing the stress can really support your students. And you can also make use of online games. I'm sure you've got a raft of games and activities at your disposal, but this next video is a really short snippet of just one way that I use to help review and test my CELTA trainees' knowledge of different kinds of stress and patterns. So have a look at what's happening here.
How about this one, word stress? Do you remember the word stress patterns we looked at?
Green.
All kinds of answers there. How do we say the word pronunciation?
Oh, no, not green, sorry.
How do we say it?
No.
Pronunciation.
Pronunciation. Yeah. So it should be on the fourth one. Yeah, 4 of 5. Pronunciation.
Yes.
Lovely. Okay, it's word stress again. Oh, Maya's creeping up. Maya's creeping up. Mike's still in the lead. All right, what about phonology? What's the word stress pattern for phonology?
Blue. Blue.
Fantastic. Now you're getting warmed up. Now you're getting warmed up. So phonology, yeah. Phonology, 4 pieces and the stress in the second. Nice. Okay, clean.
All right, so again, using Kahoot can be just a fun way to help your learners get reminded of different stress patterns. This was also mentioned in the BBC video, that you can give individual either pieces of a word or words of a sentence to different members of the class, and then just have them practicing trying to say those with perfect intonation. So imagine if there were 3 people sitting in front of me. I could say, right, let's try and say decision. So I'll take the first syllable, which would be de. Maybe I might ask Gabby to take the second syllable. So she says decige. And then I might ask Hedy to take the last syllable, which is jeune. So we'd have to try and say it all together without making any mistakes and make sure that Gabby has the strongest part. So it sounds like decision. You can also do this again for your kinesthetic learners who like a bit of movement by maybe encouraging the person who's the stressed syllable to stand up, or maybe to do like a little Mexican wave. So imagine if we were taking a word like indecisive, we would give each syllable to one of 4 different students and have them try and practice indecisive. So it looks like a little Mexican wave like that. So that can be a really quite fun thing to try, especially when you've got word families where the stress pattern is normally repeated, like on the Asian nouns, it's normally on the penultimate syllable, or sometimes in the longer words down here at the bottom, realization, you might have 2 major stresses. And again, that can be quite fun if you're dividing that up in a class to see your students have a go at trying to say realization. So I encourage you to give that a go if you're feeling brave enough to demonstrate a Mexican wave. Okay, so coming towards the end then, just to summarize, it's really important when you're drilling to think about the level of your learners, because the lower level learners need lots and lots of confidence, so lots and lots of practice. Making sure that you're thinking about correct intonation, so rising if it's a question, falling if it's disagreeing or saying something negative. They need to know about simple things like word stress and also how the word stress shifts when it's in a word family. So inform on the second, but information on the third. And they might need some help on tricky sounds, so things like the sh sound, for example, or maybe just the weak schwa. Your higher level learners are going to need a bit of something different from you. So working more on chunks and phrases and surround language. So rather than just on like sounds and words, building it up so that they can get a really good library of content available. They might need to practice contractions or linking sounds like you saw in the BBC video. Nobody has ever seen Marco. So has ever seen, showing the students the focus on the linking that way. And also some strange squash sounds. For example, in English, we never say, can I have a cup of tea? it would all be squashed together. So can I have a cuppa? Can I have a cup of tea? So making sure that you're focusing on the squashed sounds and the natural intonation and rhythm of speech. So make sure that you do a little bit of focus on speed as well as accuracy with the higher levels. Often when they're drilling, they tend to sound a bit like alien robots. So I try to encourage my students to speak a little bit more quickly so it sounds a little bit more naturally. And then after the freer practice activity, always remember to come back and support and reinforce with some delayed error correction once they've had their freer practice chance. So you've learned a lot about drilling so far, and just to finally wrap up, earlier on at the very, very beginning, I said when we're thinking about drilling, sometimes if we're not going to reach perfection, we might just have to settle for an improvement and stop when our students are better. So this last video is me last year in one of my first online Zoom lessons, working with a great bunch of Arabic lads on the second conditional. Thinking about everything you've learned today, maybe as you're watching in the chat box, you could write down some examples of all the different methods that you're seeing.
Okay, so I really want you to practice your wonderful speaking, guys. All right, so listen. If you could do anything, what would you do? La 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 la. If you could do anything, what
would you do? You could do anything. What would you do?
That was rubbish. Again.
What would you do?
If you could do anything, what would you do?
What could you do?
If you could anything,
What would you do?
Guys, you
What did
need
you
the
do?
verbs. You need the
What
verbs.
did you
Listen. If you could.
If
If
you
you
could,
could do.
If you could
if
do
you could
Good.
do,
If you could do anything.
if you could anything,
If you could do anything.
If you could do anything.
Oh my goodness, I've got a bunch of alien robots. Come on, you can do anything. Khalid, Khalil, tell me.
If you could do anything,
Yep.
what would you do?
Very nice, Khalil. Good job. Okay,
For me.
Mohammed, give it a go.
yes.
Tell me. If you could do
If
anything,
you
what
could
would you do?
do anything,
Mhm.
what do you do?
Not what do you do, what would ya?
What
Would
you
ya?
what
you
do you do?
Nice. Okay, Mansoor.
What do you do?
Okay. Again, Susie.
If you could do anything, what would you do?
What would you do?
If you could do anything, what would you do?
If you could do anything.
Finish?
Okay.
Yeah, and the second part?
Let's finish.
That's
If you
the first
could,
part. If you could
if you
do
could-
anything, what would you do?
if you could anything, what
If
would
you could do anything, I'm not hearing the verb, Mansoor. If you could do anything, what would you do?
if you could anything, what you do?
What would ya?
What would you do?
Thank you.
What would ya?
Would ya? Yeah. Khalid, do you want to go?
Susie.
If you would do anything, what you could do?
If you could.
If you could do anything, what would you do?
If you could do anything, what would you do?
Much better, Khalid. Really well
Yeah.
done. Once more. And again. Khalid, and again.
Okay, if you would do anything, what you could do?
Not what you could.
You could.
What could you?
What could you do?
Much better. Okay. Abdullah, are you there?
Yes, Susie.
Let me listen.
If you could do anything, what would you do?
Very
What would
nice.
you
Mansoor, try again.
Me?
Hmm?
Okay. What?
Khalil, help him.
If you could do anything.
If you could anything.
If you could do anything.
If you could do anything.
What would you do?
What would you do?
Fantastic. Well done. Nawaf, give it a go. Or you
Yeah.
can do the sheep. You decide.
Yeah, if you could do anything, what would you do?
Double thumbs up. Excellent stuff. Mohammed, try again.
If you called to do anything, what do you do?
Okay, what would you do? Not what do you do, what would you do?
What do you do?
Okay, good enough, good enough. Okay, guys, one last time together. If you could do anything, what would you do?
If you could do anything, what would you do?
We need to practice this, don't we?
I love that group. They were so enthusiastic and so willing to work with me, but so rubbish when it came to pronunciation. So you can see why it's so important to make sure that you're drilling. It's called drilling for a reason, so once or twice is never enough. Okay, so aim for improvement over accuracy and accept that sometimes better is just going to be good enough. All right, so just to finish off, we've got a couple of polls just to find out your thoughts and feelings about drilling. So I wonder now if after having the training, you feel confident now to drill your students every day. So choose yes or no. And then the last poll, hopefully you've learned a couple of new different techniques. So do you feel confident that now you know at least 5 different ways to do drilling? Choose yes or no. I hope you enjoyed today's drilling session. There's lots more really useful masterclasses and workshops on the Gallery Teachers website, so use the address that you can see there. It's important that we drill to make sure that students can get some confidence built up and work on improving their accuracy in pronunciation in order to make sure that they can move on to have personalized fluency practice later in the lesson. So we need to do drilling to make sure they feel happy with sounds, with words, with chunks of language, and then they can build those up into phrases and questions and have meaningful and interesting conversations in the practice session. I think it's really important for teachers to drill, because even if you've drilled your students, that doesn't mean that they're going to go away being mistake-free. So I think it's super important that we drill a number of times throughout a lesson, during the language focus, in feedback to controlled practice, setting up the freer practice activity, and then if you've got time again at the end, focusing on some pronunciation practice or doing some delayed error correction. It's vital for the students they get feedback on language, otherwise they might be unintelligible outside the EFL classroom, and that's not what we want for our students at all. If you're scared of drilling, I would say to you, make it silly. It doesn't always have to be serious. It can sometimes be fun. There's loads of different techniques to do drilling, mumbling drilling, whispering drilling, shouty drilling. So watch the Masterclass series and you'll be able to find out more about how to drill, hopefully giving you confidence and chasing those fears away.